In the charming village of Birkin, the arrival of the Johnsons' newborn quickly became the talk of the town. The baby was born with a noticeably darker complexion, which surprised everyone, including the parents. Overwhelmed and anxious, Mr. Terry Johnson requested a DNA test a week later to delve into this unforeseen development. Dr. Harris, who was typically unflappable, hesitantly consented to the test, while Mrs. Lily Johnson, striving to stay composed, cradled her infant tightly. As time went by, tension mounted while the Johnsons awaited the outcome. Upon receiving the results, Dr. Harris's usual serene demeanor shifted to noticeable unease. Opening the envelope with a solemn air, Terry and Lily watched him closely, enveloped by a profound silence. Dr. Harris's hands shook slightly as he read the results, and after a long pause, he looked up expressionlessly. "I need to make a call," he whispered so quietly it was almost inaudible. The Johnsons' worry deepened as they shared anxious looks. Dr. Harris acceded to make the call, leaving Terry and Lily in agonizing suspense. Although muffled, the urgency in Dr. Harris's voice was clear through the clinic's thin walls. Lily looked at Terry, her eyes brimming with tears. After a moment, Terry reached over and gently squeezed her hand, offering solace. Meanwhile, their baby, unaware of the stress, cooed softly in her mother's embrace. Upon his return, Dr. Harris's complexion was ashen, and his eyes filled with alarm. "I apologize, but I had to seek further help," he stated as he resumed his seat, his voice tight with stress. Terry stood up quickly, his face red with impatience. "What do the results show?" he pressed, taking a deep breath. Dr. Harris struggled to find the right words. "The findings are quite extraordinary," he said at last. Lily's legs felt weak, and she slumped deeper into her chair. "What does that mean?" she murmured, her voice faint. Dr. Harris glanced at the baby and then at the parents. "We're not certain yet. More tests are required," he said, indicating that a more thorough inquiry into the infant's distinctive traits was necessary. As the room teemed with a blend of apprehension and intrigue, the Johnsons braced themselves for what was yet to come. "Be performed." His words hung heavily in the air, underscoring the gravity of the situation, as the sudden alarm of sirens disrupted the quiet of the room. The atmosphere took a sharp turn. Terry's look of irritation swiftly transformed into one of dread as two paramedics entered swiftly. "What's going on here?" he asked, his voice rebounding against the walls. The doctor maintained a chilling silence, heightening the room's tension, holding her baby tighter to her bosom. Lily felt a chilling fear encircle her heart. The paramedics, perceiving her distress, exchanged worried looks before one of them spoke gently. "Ma'am, it's necessary to bring your daughter in for further medical assessment," one paramedic stated, extending his hands to receive the baby from Lily. As Lily began to sob, she instinctively recoiled, keeping her baby out of the paramedic's reach. "No, you can't take her," she exclaimed in despair. Terry moved to shield his wife, declaring, "We need answers before we proceed," his tone resolute. Dr. Harris, aware of their growing anxiety, approached with a softened expression. "I know this is incredibly hard," he started, his voice soothing and reassuring. He nodded to the waiting paramedics, who stood back respectfully, allowing the parents time to absorb the situation. Caught between fear and the need to trust, Lily hesitated briefly before finally letting her baby go with the paramedics. As they left, a deep sense of helplessness and concern enveloped Terry and Lily. Sitting down again, Dr. Harris spoke with serious compassion. "We will do all we can to determine what is happening," he promised, his voice laden with sincerity. Terry clenched his fists, fighting to keep his emotions in check, as Dr. Harris inhaled deeply before adding, "The initial findings are quite unusual. We must conduct additional tests to fully grasp the situation." His eyes met theirs, filled with real worry. "Your daughter's health may rely on these further evaluations," he stated gently, encouraging them to acknowledge the need for more tests. Rising, Dr. Harris looked towards the door. "I have already summoned the paramedics," he informed them. "They will transport your daughter to a specialized facility for advanced testing." Every action was driven by the need to ensure their daughter's well-being. In the tight grasp of reality, Terry clenched his jaw as Lily embraced their infant closer, both parents profoundly impacted by the doctor's announcement. Dr. Harris handed Terry a piece of paper bearing the address of the clinic. noting, "This clinic has top-notch facilities for the necessary tests." As Terry looked at the note in a daze, with Lily peering over, her thoughts racing, "You will need to stay at the clinic for a few days," the doctor continued, his voice firm yet gentle, acknowledging their visible anxiety. Dr. Harris, noticing their nervousness, softened his approach further. "You can accompany her and stay at the clinic." He reassured them, mentioning that the facility provided accommodations for parents. Lily, tears streaming down her face, nodded. "We'll support you every step of the way," he promised. Terry squeezed Lily's hand, drawing from her strength. "We just want her to be well," Lily murmured, her voice drowned out by the increasing wail of sirens outside. The couple shared a profound, silent exchange, their hearts heavy as they mechanically filled a small bag with essentials. As they zipped up the bag, a knock sounded at their door. It was the paramedics, ready to transport their daughter to the clinic. "We'll follow right behind you," Terry stated firmly with a nod, taking a deep, steadying breath as they prepared to leave. Exiting Dr. Harris's office, the world seemed distant and surreal as they departed, still shaken by the severe diagnosis their daughter had received. Lost for words, Terry and Lily were enveloped in a suffocating silence. The severity of their predicament heavily burdening their minds, leaving them feeling numb and disoriented. As Terry started the car, the drive was shrouded in silence, each parent engulfed in their own turbulent thoughts. The usual city sounds now seemed oppressively loud, amplifying the silence that hung between them where comforting words should have been. The gravity of their child's condition weighed heavily on their hearts, making the short journey feel endlessly prolonged. Upon their arrival home, they moved with a frantic urgency to gather essentials for their extended stay at the clinic. Clothes, toiletries, and baby supplies were hastily packed, their normally warm and loving home now feeling stark and urgent, every motion fueled by their determination to care for their daughter. It seemed as though it had been torn apart by a tempest. Lily's face was quietly streaked with tears, and Terry, despite his desire to comfort her, found himself immobilized, unable to bridge the expanding chasm of unspoken tension between them. Despite the deep love they shared, the strain was evident, overwhelming them with intense emotions and frayed nerves. United by their concern for their daughter, they worked together with a clear purpose as they prepared for the hospital stay. They zipped up bags, slipped on shoes, and conducted last-minute checks, their shared anxiety for their child binding them as they readied themselves to confront the impending challenges. Carrying several bags, Terry and Lily made their way to the car, their movements slow and weighed down by their situation. They loaded the luggage into the trunk without a word, the only sounds being the quiet clicks of zippers and the distant buzz of the neighborhood. As they double-checked the house, Lily, her voice filled with concern, broke the silence. "Did we get everything?" she whispered. Terry nodded, giving the rooms one final sweep to ensure nothing essential was left behind. As they drove away, ready to face whatever lay ahead, the couple was united in their resolve to do everything necessary for their daughter. Despite the tension and sorrow filling the car, as Terry and Lily locked their home, the familiar setting seemed oddly foreign, vividly contrasting with the uncertainty ahead. The burden of their situation was clearly visible on Terry's face, his brow was furrowed, and his shoulders tense. However, catching sight of Lily's tired and anxious expression softened his gaze. It was evident they both harbored a mix of fear and determination. Despite the difficulties, they were together in this journey. Terry reached out to Lily, his gesture a silent promise of support and understanding. They shared a tender moment, embracing in the living room. The warmth of their embrace provided a brief escape from their worries. Recent disputes were momentarily forgotten, replaced by a deep, mutual concern for their daughter. This embrace expressed more than words ever could: love, fear, and hope intertwined for a few precious moments, offering both of them comfort. With renewed resolve, they secured their home and headed to the car. The brief connection had strengthened them. Terry double-checked the lock on the front door before turning to Lily. "Ready?" he asked. As they approached the vehicle, Terry tenderly placed a kiss on Lily's forehead, a subtle peace offering between them. This gentle kiss conveyed much, a silent apology and a vow to jointly tackle the forthcoming trials. Lily closed her eyes, a wave of relief briefly enveloping her. Their daughter was their primary concern, and this brief moment of calm marked a positive move forward. Hand in hand, they made their way to the car. Their unity cemented by their mutual concern for their daughter, this contact reaffirmed their unity, reminding them of their pledge to face this challenge together. After they had packed all their bags into the trunk, their actions coordinated by their shared anxiety, the quiet between them seemed more reassuring than strained. During the ride, Lily attempted to affirm her commitment to Terry. "Terry, she's our daughter, I swear," she whispered, her voice heavy with emotion. Terry looked at her, his grip on the steering wheel tightening. "I know, Lily," he responded, although a hint of doubt remained in his voice. The journey seemed to stretch on indefinitely, echoing their worries. Terry, still tense but slightly more relaxed, reached out and grasped Lily's hand. "Let's wait for the doctor's final word," he proposed, trying to provide solace. Lily nodded, tightening her grip on his hand in return. This small gesture was significant. Helping to close the distance between them, they realized the importance of staying strong for their daughter and each other as they continued their drive, now focusing on supporting one another in the face of upcoming trials. The atmosphere in the car lightened somewhat as they shared their hopes for their daughter's recovery, each mile drawing them nearer to the clinic and to what lay ahead. Understanding the difficulties they faced, they were resolved to tackle them together. After an hour's drive, Terry pulled into the gravel driveway of the remote clinic. The stark white building stood out sharply against the verdant surroundings. Terry turned off the engine, and they sat in silence for a brief moment, mustering their bravery. "We're here," he finally said, his voice steady. Lily nodded, her hand tightly clutching her purse. They walked up to the clinic's daunting entrance, their hearts a blend of hope and fear. Trepidation and anticipation filled their thoughts about what awaited them. The pathway leading to the door was neatly bordered by well-kept shrubs, and the atmosphere was fresh and invigorating. "This place looks inviting," Lily whispered, drawing some solace from the serene environment. Upon their arrival, a friendly receptionist immediately recognized them as the Johnsons. "Welcome, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson," she greeted them with a comforting tone. "We have been expecting you." She handed them a clipboard filled with essential forms. "Please complete these, and we'll arrange everything shortly," she continued. Terry and Lily shared a look, feeling somewhat relieved. As they completed the paperwork, their hands trembled slightly, each question reminding them of their predicament. "Are we almost finished?" Lily murmured, her pen paused above the document. Terry nodded as he filled in the final details. The heaviness of the paperwork seemed to reflect the burden in their hearts. The receptionist collected the filled forms with a smile. "Thank you," she said. "We'll bring you to your daughter once we've processed everything." Her serene presence helped alleviate some of their stress. "Please wait here for a moment," she indicated, pointing towards a set of chairs. Sitting down, Terry and Lily's hearts beat with eager anticipation. After submitting the paperwork, they immediately asked to see their daughter. "May we see her now?" Terry inquired, his voice calm yet insistent. The receptionist nodded, empathizing with their anxiety. "Of course, follow me," she responded, rising from her seat. They trailed behind her, both eager and nervous about reuniting with their child. She guided them through twisting corridors and up several flights of stairs, all the while speaking cheerfully about the clinic's excellent staff and cutting-edge facilities. Terry and Lily attempted to listen, though their focus remained intently on their daughter. Each turn and step they took heightened their anticipation, their hearts racing. The receptionist's cheerful demeanor sharply contrasted with the Johnsons' increasing unease as they neared their destination. The bright lights and sterile setting seemed cold and unwelcoming. Lily looked over at Terry, her eyes mirroring her concern. "We're almost there," the receptionist said brightly, seemingly unaware of their growing apprehension. They continued on, a mix of hope and apprehension filling them. At last, they arrived at a plain white door. Turning to them with a beaming smile, the receptionist announced, "Here we are, ready to open the door." Arisa greeted them, her voice emanating warmth as she knocked lightly. Before opening the door, Terry and Lily shared a look, their hearts pounding with anticipation. The awaited moment lay beyond the threshold. The receptionist, despite her cheerful facade, betrayed a touch of concern in her eyes, which heightened their unease. "She's right inside," she spoke quietly, her voice taking on a more solemn tone. Clasping hands tightly, Terry and Lily moved forward. They noted the subtle shift in the receptionist's behavior. which increased their anxiety as they readied themselves to see their daughter. The receptionist gently warned them about their daughter's altered appearance due to ongoing medical procedures. She might look different because of the medical equipment. She explained softly, "Please, don't be alarmed." Terry acknowledged with a nod, giving Lily's hand a reassuring squeeze as they steeled themselves against a mix of fear and hope. They were comforted slightly by the presence of Dr. Harris as they knocked and were greeted by his sorrowful smile. "Come in," he invited them gently, his eyes mirroring the gravity of the situation. The sight of a familiar face afforded them a slight comfort. They entered, eager to see their daughter once more. Upon entering, they were confronted with the sight of their daughter connected to various medical apparatus. A view that deeply shocked Lily. Tubes and monitors enveloped the tiny, fragile-looking baby amidst the overwhelming machinery. Lily gasped, covering her mouth with her hand, while Terry tightened his grip on her arm, both struggling to digest the heartrending scene. Overwhelmed with emotion, Lily nearly collapsed, but Terry supported her promptly, keeping her upright. "It's okay, I've got you," he assured her, his voice steadfast in the face of his own fears. Leaning into him, Lily drew strength from his presence. Together, they faced the shock and their love for their daughter, and resolved to remain strong. Dr. Harris motioned for them to come further inside, his serious yet compassionate demeanor addressing their concerns. "I know this is hard to see," he started, "but these tests are essential." His voice was calm and comforting. "We're doing everything we can to understand and help your daughter." Terry and Lily nodded, their faith in him firm. Terry led Lily to a chair next to their daughter's bed, gently urging her to sit. "Take a seat, honey," he murmured, steadying her. Lily sat, her gaze fixed on their baby. The room echoed with the soft beeps of monitors, a stark reminder of the situation. Lily, with her voice trembling, inquired if she could cradle her infant, her eyes beseeching Dr. Harris. "May I please hold her?" she murmured, her eyes welling up with tears. Dr. Harris paused, fully grasping the intensity of her request. Terry stood beside Lily, his hand resting on her shoulder, anticipating the doctor's decision. After a brief hesitation, Dr. Harris nodded, and they carefully proceeded to grant her earnest wish. In a poignant moment, Dr. Harris carefully picked up the newborn and tenderly placed her in Lily's eager arms. "Handle her with utmost care," he softly cautioned, speaking in a subdued tone that filled the quiet room. Lily's hands shook gently as she held her daughter close, the warmth of the little one against her igniting a surge of mixed emotions, both overwhelming and poignant. Terry observed the tender scene, his heart filled with both love and worry. As Lily embraced their daughter tightly, tears cascaded down her face, each tear silently bearing witness to her joy and apprehension. She gently caressed the baby's cheek, murmuring, "My precious girl," her voice breaking with the weight of her feelings. The baby shifted slightly, her tiny face the picture of serenity. Terry stepped closer, placing a supportive hand on Lily's back, the atmosphere in the room as delicate as a bubble, filled with both love and sorrow. Worried about what the future held for his family, Terry sought a private discussion with Dr. Harris outside the room. "Could we speak privately?" he proposed, his voice resolute yet filled with concern. Dr. Harris, sensing the urgency in Terry's request, agreed with a nod, as Terry readied to step out. Lily looked up, her face a complex mix of thankfulness and worry. Terry gave her shoulder a reassuring squeeze before exiting with the doctor. Once outside, Terry's manner was pressing as he sought answers, even hinting at possible legal repercussions. "I need all the details immediately," he stated, his tone low and forceful. "If anything is withheld from us, I will not hesitate to pursue legal measures." Dr. Harris, visibly affected by the seriousness of the circumstances, consented to disclose everything and recommended they consult Dr. Peterson, a specialist at the clinic, for further clarity. "Very well, I will disclose everything," Dr. Harris responded, his voice faltering. He then turned to summon the specialist, his hands shaking a bit. Terry stood with his arms crossed, his impatience palpable, the air thick with tension. Abruptly, he exclaimed, "Is she truly my daughter?" Dr. Harris affirmed without any doubt, "Yes, Terry. She is indeed your daughter. The DNA tests confirm it." Terry experienced a fleeting sense of relief, yet his primary worry persisted. Drawing a deep breath, he prepared to tackle more urgent matters. "What is wrong with her?" he inquired, his voice betraying his emotional strain. "Why does she require all these tests?" Before Dr. Harris could respond, they were joined by another physician. Dr. Jane Peterson greeted them confidently, extending a firm handshake. "I'm Dr. Peterson," she announced, radiating confidence and clear-headedness. "Let's step inside and review your daughter's test results," she proposed, her demeanor both professional and compassionate. Dr. Peterson escorted Terry into a more secluded area to discuss the particulars. A mix of relief and ongoing anxiety filled Terry as he prepared to confront the challenges concerning his daughter's health. Keeping his emotions in check, he re-entered the consultation room where Lily awaited, anxious about the doctor's conclusions. As Terry approached, the doctors prepared to share their insights. "Lily, this is Dr. Peterson," Terry introduced, managing to keep his voice calm amid the tension. Lily looked up, her eyes filled with apprehension. Dr. Peterson gave a comforting nod and sat down next to them. "Hello Lily, I'm Dr. Peterson," she started, acknowledging the stress evident in the room. "I know this is a difficult period for you, and I want to assure you that we are here to support you," she said. Dr. Peterson then introduced Dr. Harris, who also recognized the gravity of their situation. "I know it's tough, but we'll go over everything together," Dr. Harris reassured. Lily nodded, appreciating the doctor's compassionate manner. Terry squeezed her hand, both steeling themselves for the upcoming discussion. Dr. Peterson observed their puzzled looks and turned to Dr. Harris for an explanation as to why the couple hadn't been informed sooner. Dr. Harris exhaled deeply. "I wanted to be absolutely sure before potentially worrying you unnecessarily." Terry and Lily looked at each other, their initial confusion slowly turning to comprehension. Dr. Peterson, with a softer tone, sought to calm the worried parents and was prepared to clearly outline the next steps. Terry and Lily leaned forward, ready to understand and brace for the future. "Your daughter has a rare genetic disorder," Dr. Peterson began gently, "which may pose significant health issues as she matures." The parents listened closely, their concern growing. "It's essential that we monitor her closely," Dr. Peterson emphasized, underlining the need to address any potential complications. Dr. Peterson emphasized the need for additional tests to fully comprehend her medical situation. "By understanding her condition thoroughly, we can devise a strategy to maintain her health optimally," she stated. Lily, overwhelmed, tried to process the torrent of information, while Terry provided comfort by holding her hand, both acutely aware of the daunting task that lay before them. Stricken by the news, they embraced, shedding tears together. "We will overcome this as a unit," Terry murmured, his voice laden with emotion. Lily wept quietly, holding on to him as the gravity of their daughter's health issues became apparent, unleashing a wave of feelings. In this moment of vulnerability, they found solace and strength in each other's support. Fortified by their love for their daughter, Dr. Peterson conveyed that their daughter might require additional support but was otherwise in good health. "She might need extra help," she remarked, "but she's a strong, resilient child." A spark of hope lit up in Terry and Lily. "We will do whatever is necessary," Terry declared confidently. Dr. Peterson, reassured by their commitment, smiled. "With your love and care, she has a promising future ahead." Terry, regretting his initial doubts, apologized to Lily, and they both reaffirmed their commitment to care for their daughter with renewed vigor. Overcome with remorse, Terry admitted, "I'm deeply sorry for everything." As he spoke, tears filled his eyes, mirroring his deep regret. Seeing his pain, Lily embraced him tightly, providing comfort and reassurance. In a soft whisper, she reassured him, "We'll get through this." Both were painfully aware that despite future challenges, their steadfast love for their daughter would illuminate their path and guide them through any hardships together. Do you have any thoughts after watching the above video? Tell us in the comments section. We'd like to hear your thoughts. That's for today's story. Please subscribe and give a thumbs up. See you next time.